Welcome to Juniper Highlands Homestead. Today I'm going to be cleaning up the edges of the excavation site and digging a trench for the footer. I'm using the 4 tent stakes that I placed during the original site survey to check to see if the size and shape of the hole I dug matches what I've planned. Now I've run a string line around those 4 stakes that will act as a guide to let me see if the sides are straight and the corners are square. You should be able to look directly down on the string and see all the way to the bottom of the excavation. If you can't do that, then your building is not going to fit inside the hole you dug. So as you can see in this case, I didn't remove quite enough material. So I'm going to come back and using the string line as a guide, I'm going to remove just a little bit more and get this just right. Now that we've got a little clearance between the string and the side, we're ready to move on to the next phase of the excavation, which is the footer trench. A rubble trench footer is basically just a trench full of rocks. It was used by the ancestral Puebloans who lived in this area, and many of their structures are still standing after over 1,000 years. It's particularly good for earthbag buildings because it can handle the massive weight of the walls, and it allows for the flow of water. This trench is going to be about 25 inches wide. The earthbag wall, which is about 15 inches wide, will be right here. And then the remaining 9 inches, I'm going to fill with gravel all the way to the top. Then any water that flows from the surface or seeps in from the sides will trickle down into the rubble trench and then will flow out the foundation drain in the back. So here's an illustration to show you what the finished product is going to look like. You'll see that on the bottom and the sides, I have undisturbed soil. It's really important that the soil is undisturbed, because if you have dug underneath or on the sides, and the soil will never pack back down the way it was when it was undisturbed. And then when you put a building on top of that weighs thousands of pounds, it can settle unevenly. Between the soil and the gravel, I'm going to put in a piece of geotextile fabric. This is just a gardener's cloth. It's like a black fabric weed control that you put usually in landscaping. But in this case, I'm going to put it at the bottom of the trench to keep silt from creeping up into the gravel and blocking the flow of water. On the outside edge, I have a 3-inch tube that's a foundation drain. It's the rigid kind. It's white. It has holes in just the bottom. Okay, and that will allow a free space for water to flow. It's important that you don't use the black perforated pipe because it can be crushed by the rocks from above, and this white rigid pipe could be crushed if you put it under the wall, and that's why I have it over here on the far side. And we've got our foundation width of 24 inches. The first course of bags is going to be filled with gravel, and it's keyed in here next to the floor and is held in on the other side by this gravel. And then there will be a vapor barrier that runs between that gravel bag and all the other earth bags. It's important that the earth bags that are filled with regular dirt are not exposed to moisture. So this is 8 mil black plastic that I'm going to put in here, and it'll come all the way down and touch the trench liner down here. And then this is the area of the gravel where water can trickle in and seep in from the side, and it'll all be carried out and through the bottom of the trench. The first thing I'm going to do is establish the interior corners for the trench. To do this, I've chosen a point right here in the corner. It's about 1 inch from this wall and 1 inch from this wall. And then I'm going to take a measurement this way because the trench is going to be 24 inches wide. But I need to remember that there's 1 inch between the wall and the stake, so I really only want to go to 23 inches here. So I find that measurement, and I put in another stake. Then from that stake, I'm going to measure 23 inches out, because this one is also 1 inch from the wall, and find the next point. So what we're going to be creating is a right triangle. And to make sure that this point is in the exact location, we're going to use the hypotenuse. So if we take the length of this side, square it, plus the length of this side and square it, it will equal the square root of the distance between these two, and it'll be at a 45-degree angle. So when you take that, the hypotenuse for a 2-foot right triangle is going to end up being about 34 inches. So we'll take that measurement and find it, and if you're at 34 inches, you're good to go. Well, it took a few weekends, but I finally finished digging the footer trench. All the material I dug up, I put in the center of the build site for two reasons. The first reason is I'm going to need some of this for an earthen floor that I'm going to put in the building later. The other reason is because I'm going to use a big chunk of this for the first few courses of the Earthbag wall. As the wall gets higher, I'll start to use the dirt that's up at ground level. Another thing I wanted to tell you about is that I decided to stair-step the base of the foundation. I did this because I wanted to create a natural flow for any water that gets into the foundation. But I don't want my building, the base of my building, to be on a slope. So I stair-stepped it. Every 5 feet it comes out and drops 1 1/4 inches. Another 5 feet, then it drops another 1 1/4 inches. That starts in this corner right here, which is the high point. Then it keeps dropping down as you go around to the opposite corner, which is the low point, and also where the foundation drain is. Now the slope of this also goes along with the natural slope of the surrounding land. When I fill this trench up with gravel later, it'll be flat on top, so we'll have a nice level base for the Earthbag wall. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comments section below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.